Hey guys, thank you for tuning in for my, I believe it's Tuesday, November 16th, 2021, for Casually Christian. Just a warning, tonight's going to be a pretty heavy update. Because if you guys have been keeping up with my previous updates for the past 2 weeks, you guys know that my dad, he terminated his dialysis treatment because his quality of life was um, was not there. He was suffering every day. So he got hospice care and he was being taken care of at my mom's house. And he thankfully like he saw my birthday. I thought like he was gonna. I was hoping that he could see my my last birthday, and it sucks because I knew it was gonna be my last. It was gonna be my last birthday with my pops. So I'm glad that I was able to talk to him for a little bit because he was still there. He was still conscious, and I honestly thought we honestly thought that he was gonna pass away like like Monday morning, like somewhere in his sleep, sometime in his sleep. But it happened on Saturday. My father passed away this Saturday evening, and I was just going through the motions with like the day, and I picked up my brother Diego to go eat poke Saturday. We had dinner with my two boyfriends, and after we were done eating, I took him back home. I saw my dad. He was still, in this state where like he was kind of conscious and unconscious, and he was still, he was still breathing. Like he still look, his condition still looked the same. So I spoke to him as best that I could because I knew he could hear me. I says, "Dad, I'm gonna go home real quick. I'll be back." So I left, got my things ready, just clean the house a little bit. And then my brother called me. He's like, "You got to come here because dad is tripping me out." And it's like, and then, I was taking a little bit longer. And then my brother called me. Guys, like, "Dude, you got to get here now." So after that, like, I got it. I got everything together. I didn't even think, I grabbed everything. I grabbed my wallet, got my keys, everything. John drove me over there, and he was driving carefully, but if I was driving, I would have been like Cruella Deville driving to my parents' house. But thankfully, John was able to drive because I wouldn't be able. I wasn't in the right state of mind, and I went to my mom's house, and it felt like forever driving there, and my brothers, and my mom, they were surrounding my dad, and my two aunts were there, and it was very sad to see my dad go. Um, we, the, he didn't he we gave him his last wish that he was surrounded by his loved ones. So when we saw him pass away, everybody was there. Me and my brothers and my mom were all there holding his hands, and it's very trippy to see like a loved one slip away, like his life being taken away from him, and seeing it, like witnessing it as he took his last breath. And when it stopped, and like he stopped breathing, like it was such a trip, man. It was like powerful and traumatic, and it changed me forever. Like it's that what I went through with my family that night. It's not something something that I'm never ever gonna forget. And it gave me like a whole new perspective. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it gave me like a perspective of life because like somebody who he was my father, and he made me into the person that I am today. Like my father was my moral compass, and he taught me to be, not to add to bullshit in the world, and he taught me to always walk in the room like you own the place. He was very charismatic with the people that he spoke to, and he had a love for animals. He did it. I remember, because Bugs Bunny. I wanted to check out the Matador fights in Tijuana, and my dad told me, he's like, "No, that's cruel. You don't want to see an animal get tortured, for public spectacle." And this is when I was, in elementary school, because I didn't know better, because I was just watching TV, and that I remember that, like, don't be cruel to animals. And he never owned birds because he said he felt that birds need to be free. They shouldn't be caged up. And when he did have a bird, I think it was a cockatoo, um, and he always let that cockatoo out of his cage, and that's how much like my father showed me how to be a good person. And for him not to be here anymore, it's a trip, because like we I it's not like, because my dad was a truck driver, and he'd be gone for days, And like, but he wasn't gone really. You could call him up on his page, or later on in the future his cell phone, and he would answer the phone. But my dad still has his cell phone, and the only one who's going to answer now is my mom. And it's a trip that I'm never going to, I'm he's still young. When he passed away, he was 64. His birthday is in January. He would have been 65. And to think that if he was a healthy man, he would have still at least have 30 years. And this is 30 years that I'm not going to have with my dad, is short lived. Like, it's, it was really hard. Like, when everything went down Saturday evening, like, of course we cried, and, we bonded. And after everything, we had to call the hospice. And, as my aunt was taking care of it, I went to the fridge and I grabbed a beer, and I chugged it, and my hands were like, they were trembling. And, my brothers, we went, after we hugged, and we went on our little own. My brother called his wife Emily, and my brother Diego went outside to, you know, to take care of, to be alone and with his thoughts. And I was lucky that John and Alex were there, and they were hugging me, comforting me, when everything went down Saturday evening. And it's crazy, because after that, like, the hospice people, they came, and it took about an hour, for them to get there. And uh and my dad was on heavy medication. And so the procedure, I didn't know this, but like, all the medicine that they gave him to help him out with his pain, they had to dispose it. They couldn't bring it back with them. Even the pills that weren't open, they had to dispose it. And he said back in the day, before there was legislation for it, they used to dump all the medicine down the toilet, flush it, but that was bad for the ecosystem. So now the way to dispose, like, the hydromorphine and all those heavy drugs, they pour it all in a diaper with all these pills along with it. And they put it in the diaper, and they roll it up, because nobody's going to go through a diaper, and get the drugs, because they think it's soiled. So yeah, he was telling us that was like his procedure. That's how he got rid of all the heavy drugs that they gave my dad. And yeah, and then the hospice personnel, like, he called the funeral home, and he said that the funeral home was going to come in an hour, to get my dad. And but he said that we were very lucky, because we thought an hour and 30 minutes was a long time. And he told us that, well, you should be lucky that he's not buried, he's not going to Rose Hills, because their wait time is 12 hours. And then we had to repeat it, because it didn't sound right. I was like, you mean 12 hours until they come? And then it's like, yeah, because they're really busy. Oh my, that is incredible. Oh my, that's like unacceptable. Oh my, like, 12 hours. That's disrespectful and traumatizing. Yeah, it's unacceptable, especially for Rose Hill, which is like a very it's very expensive to get buried there. And not a lot of people don't know this, but my godfather, he's buried in Rose Hills. He got killed in this trucking accident back in the mid 80s. And I was very young, and my mom and dad didn't know that. I remember, but I remembered when my dad got that phone call about his brother. But I was so young, and I didn't understand what that phone call was that made my dad cry. And I remember that my dad was hugging my mom after that phone call, crying, and I didn't understand it because I was so small. But now now I know what happened, and I'm comforted that my dad is with his brother and his mom and dad, in the afterlife. Because my dad, he was, the way I'm close with my brothers is the way my dad was close with his brother, who was killed in that trucking accident, because they did everything together. And yeah, and it's really heavy stuff. And for everybody who's been wishing my family, like, condolences, and giving me your prayers and all that, I thank you so much. Like, my mom and my family really appreciate it. And this is so new. It's like, this just happened this past weekend. It's only Tuesday. you know it's only like 4 days in my new life that I don't have my pops anymore, my dad. And he was a very nice, he was a kind man. And he, again, like he showed me what it is to be a person who doesn't add into the bullshit of the world. Because I remember there was this one time I was going, I think it was in 2010, 2011. I was going to Cerritos, what's called Cerritos College, and I was taking a course, and I didn't want to pay for the parking, so I made it. I parked all the way like by the LA Fitness, because there was plenty of ample parking in that area, and I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. And I was only gone for 2 hours, and when I got back, the security guard he found me, and he towed my car, and he gave me the number and all that. My dad picked me up, and I was angry. I was angry at the world. I was angry that this security guard had a power trip and singled me out where everybody else was doing it. And I was venting to my dad, and I told him on the drive back, on the drive home, it's like I told my dad, like, this world is bullshit. And then my dad, like, he replied back automatically. It's like, no, Christian, this world isn't bullshit. People make this world bullshit. And he was right, because this world is a beautiful planet. It's just people's arbitrary rules that fucking fucks everything up. And I think that's why my dad wasn't into politics, because he saw through the bullshit. And he didn't like bureaucrats. He hated, like, he didn't like the IRS or the DOT, but he did understand people needed to pay taxes for the roads and all that. But he said, like, there's a point where they're just robbing you. It's a tax for everything. But if it he said he didn't mind getting taxed for the right things if he saw his money getting spent the way it's supposed to be spent. But it's not. We all know that. And so that's why my dad wasn't into politics. He never voted, but he loved this country. He came to this country as an immigrant with his brother. He came here like when he was 15. He got deported once, and he came back again, because that's determination. um, and he told me the story where, like, he went to, like, like in Northern California, where everybody picks the strawberries, like the produce. He was one of the migrant workers, and when he was like 17, 16, and he said there was this one summer where he was violently he had this high fever one summer night, and he was like, he never forgot that night. And because he said he felt like shit, but he faced through a lot of adversity, and got himself, he moved to Norwalk, and he took an English class, and in Excelsior High School. And that's how I met my mom, because my mom's friend, my mom was going to Norwalk High School, and my mom was friends with this girl who was seeing this one guy who was going to Excelsior, high, for the English as a second language. And that's how my mom got introduced to my dad. And it was because, like, the girl she was dating my dad, but, like, in the end, my mom and my dad became a couple instead of that girl who showed him her boyfriend. But it was like, the way my mom describes my dad is like, why did you fall in love with him? Like, well, why, what was so different with my dad? And it's like, I don't know, something about your dad, like the way he spoke was very different, very odd. And it's like, what do you mean? And then my mom said, it's like, well, one time, like, when I first met him, he said, what kind of tortillas do you like to flip? And, like, this is in Spanish. And like, my mom looked at it, it's like, what the hell are you talking about? And then she dawns, like, what my dad meant to say. It's like, what kind of records do you listen to? And, like, she never heard anybody talk that way before. And it's silly. Like, I've never heard anybody, talk that way. And, it's just, I guess that's why my mom fell in love with my dad, because he was odd. I guess I got my personality from my dad. And yeah, my dad, and it's, like, I don't know if right now, like, we're getting everything together for his services. And right now, because it's not going to be, they said, like, the opening to have my dad's services won't be until December 3rd. I'm like, December 3rd, that's like 2 weeks ahead. I'm like, that's again, that's messed up to think that my dad, is somewhere with all, everybody else, not, it's a sign of disrespect. And my mom's going to talk to them tomorrow, see if we could bring it closer to the week, make it as soon as possible. And yeah, and it's going to be really hard to see, my dad in the casket, because it's going to be official. It's going to be like, that's, this chapter of his life is done. And it just made me appreciate, my life, as much as that sounds like a cliche that, it could be all taken right away. And I've been feeling a little lightheaded at work, and even right now I feel a little lightheaded. Um, Almost like I'm kind of like still in the fog, like it's still like it's so surreal to go through this, but we're staying strong, and I'm trying to be as supportive for my mom and my family as much as possible. And I have to be with my mom. Not that I have to be, I want to be with my mom. Take her out and take her out to dinner, and take her to Rodeo Drive because I know she wants to go there. But it's just very, very fresh and very raw for me right now, and I really appreciate everybody's condolences. Um, Priscilla said, "My deepest condolences to you and your family." And Rick, my cousin, he said, "I'm so sorry to hear about your dad. My deepest, sincerest condolences." And Art, thank you for texting me and talking to me on Saturday. And John Lance and Deb, thank you so much. And Ariana, yeah, I got your message today, Ariana. Like I really appreciate you, like, you know, kind of keeping tabs on my mental state. I really appreciate it for everyone. But my dad, he wants me to, a lot of people tell me, it's like, how come you're going to work? And it's like, well, I need to go to work because, not because I need to be there, because my dad wanted me to go to work, because my dad loved to work. Like he didn't love sports. He wasn't into politics. He loved his job. He loved, that was his passion. That was his sport. That's what, not only his livelihood, but excited him, um, and he was good at it too. He was very, like, the reason he was so successful in the '90s is because, like, he did well, like, who like he made it known that if you set your mind to it, even if you're driven, like anybody, even an immigrant like him who came from Mexico from nothing, could become a middle class American, with like a bit, house, and like he's able to provide to his family. And he's inspirational, because he did it, I wouldn't say the right way, because he was an immigrant, but like he's that American dream came come true, um so yeah, like, here's a short story of how good my dad's job he was with his job. Back in the day when FAMSA was still around. FAMSA is kind of like the Mexican Best Buy, but they went under. But at the time when they were thriving, there was a FAMSA in East LA, and I went there with my dad. This big semi truck with big trailer, and those who been in East LA, those streets are very narrow, very intimidating if you're a newbie being a truck driver, getting in those narrow alleys and all that. And he was delivering some merchandise for FAMSA, and there was this, like, it was very tight. It was like the street was like a neighborhood, and there was just like alley, and he had to go into the alley, and go into this narrow docking area. And the owner of or the manager of the company at East LA, he was telling my dad that it was impossible. He couldn't do it. And then my dad was confident. Was like, no, I can do it. It's like, he's like, let's watch it. It's easy. And then he's like, he was telling me, like, he was telling the owner was telling, he was like, no, you can't do it. I'm telling you, you can't. He was like very adamant. But my dad was very, like, confident. It's like, no, I'm gonna do it. And like he goes in his truck, and I watched him, go, head straight to the alley, and then slowly back it up towards the docking area, a very narrow area. And he did it with ease and with grace. And the manager was looking at me, and he said, your dad's a crazy SOB. And I remember that, like, he made me proud that day. Like, it's like he knew his shit. He knew everything. And I remember when I was went with him, he was a truck driver. Like, I went with him on his trips to Northern California, San Francisco. And new truck drivers, he would stop by in the truck stop, and there would be some truck drivers who were lost, and they would approach my dad if they knew how to get to this place, and he knew it right, or like off his bat. Like, he just pulled out the maps, like, see, you need to go here, you need to go there, and yeah, you'll see this exit. And my dad was like the old school GPS. He had the old school, like, Thomas Guide Atlas, at the ready, like, all worn out. I remember, like, it was all marked. So my dad knew his shit, and but everything comes to an end, and that's something that we all need to realize, that everything comes to an end. Nothing lasts forever. We have to appreciate those good moments, because those good moments are fleeting. And all I have now are my dad's memories and the way he brought me up. But you know what? It was crazy. I was watching this. a video on TikTok, and it had Pauly Shore talk about his his experience losing both of his parents, and it was very like, if I didn't explain it well, this clip with Pauly Shore is gonna explain it, like encapsulate like what it feels like to lose your parents and the life after you lose your parents. And it's very short, but it's straight to the point. And Manny, whenever you're ready, you could play that. Yeah, that was a no sound right now, but we'll play it again with sound. But it's what he has to say is pretty good, really good. See that? Just give it a moment, guys. There you go. I think it's
Since my parents died in the last couple of years,
Sorry to hear
I've
that.
really, yeah, thanks. I really like, I've just really appreciated life so much more, knowing that this is a wrap at some point. You don't really realize that until you realize that, like, oh, my parents are gone. You know what I mean? Like, there's two types of lives. There's the life that you live when your parents are in this life, and then there's the life that you live when your parents are out of this life, and they're two completely different lives. Like, I got the holidays coming right now.
Yes.
And it's fucking hard for me.
Man, I'm sorry, brother.
Yeah, it's fucking.
I'm sorry, brother.
Sure.
You know,
That
it's
is hard, yeah.
So I don't want to talk about it.
No.
Yeah.
I get that would
So,
be.
Yeah, so.
But that's an important moment in all of our lives where it's like we're not the babies anymore, and we have to step up and we have to be that for the people younger than us.
Yeah, it's heavy. So
that's heavy stuff.
Yeah, it's heavy shit. So
you want to go back to talking about something less heavy?
Silly stuff. Yeah. Since my parents died,
that's pretty good, huh? We would have known Pauly Shore the Weasel.
Yeah, thanks. I really
said something.
I've just really
like
appreciated life so much more.
And it just like really touched me when I saw this video. Like I teared up, and that clip was totally spot on. Like there's a life where you live with your parents and a life where you don't live with your parents, and their life without your parents is a trip because like you want to talk to them and you can't anymore. It's only like you just wish that they could hear you like in the afterlife. And yeah, just consider that, guys, that clip that you guys watched. Talk to your mom and dad, and if you're having beef with your mom and dad or your sisters or your brothers, I mean, it's not worth it. Just talk to them. Like once it's gone, it's gone. You can get it back. All that it's just superficial ego stuff. Ego, all superficial ego shit that you need to let go, and just love your mom and dad or your brother or sister, and just let it go. Just let it wash away. Because is it really worth it? Is it really worth to hold like a grudge? No, it's not. Because I had a falling out with some friends, but I reconnected with a friend, and because I knew because like what's the point? Like I was young, we were both young, and I'm old, I'm mature, and I want to continue my friendship with those people that we fell out of touch because it's not worth it. So with that, guys, I'll let you guys go. Right now, if you guys are watching this on Facebook, please follow. If you guys can, please go on YouTube and hit like and subscribe. But until next time, I'll see you guys probably on Thursday. Hopefully with some. It's gonna be better. I'm gonna get better. It takes time. It's not something that like next week I'll be all better. Like I don't think anybody who's ever loses someone that they love, it's never gonna go away. You just learn to cope with it on your own. So I'll be okay, guys, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. Have a good night, guys.